Hi guys, welcome to AndroGuider. So last week Motorola launched a couple of new smartphones under its Moto E and G series. And in case you don't know, the Moto E smartphones is meant for low-end devices, and these are priced in the segment of rupees 5,000 to 10,000 or around the $200 mark. And the Moto G series is meant for the budget offerings of Motorola, and these smartphones are present in the bracket of rupees 10,000 to 20,000 or in the 300 to $400 price segment. So in this video, we will be taking a look at each of the 6 new Motorola handsets, and we will be seeing how they fare up against the competition on paper. Now, since Xiaomi has been ruling the low-end and budget segment for quite a while now, I will be comparing Motorola smartphones versus Xiaomi's. Firstly, we have the Moto G6 Play, which is the least powerful handset of the G series lineup. The price in rupees translates to roughly rupees 13,000, which is 1,000 rupees more than the 4GB plus 64GB variant of the Redmi Note 5. As compared to the G6 Play, the Redmi Note 5 has a higher resolution 1080p display, more RAM, a slightly better GPU, and the Snapdragon 625, which is better in performance than the Play's Snapdragon 430. Also, the Snapdragon 625 is built on the 14nm manufacturing process, in contrast to the 28nm process used for the 430. This effectively means that the Redmi Note 5 should have better battery life in comparison to the G6 Play. Each of the 8 cores of the 625 also have a higher clock speed of 2 GHz. The things that go in the favor of the G6 Play are that it ships with Android Oreo, has Dolby sound, and it is splash resistant. Additionally, the Play has an interface close to stock Android, and the Note 5 has a highly skinned version of Android in the form of MIUI 9. The G6 Play is expected to get an update to Android P and security patches once in each quarter. The Redmi Note 5, on the other hand, may not get any Android version updates after Oreo, but Xiaomi will continue to update the MIUI skin, and the updates are expected to come till the next 3 or 4 years. I will touch upon the updates again in the later part of the video. Next up, we have the Moto G6, which is 50 bucks or 3,000 rupees costlier than the Play. As compared to the Play variant, the G6 sports a taller screen, has dual cameras, and the Snapdragon 450. The Snapdragon 450 is more of a rebrand of the Snapdragon 625. The only difference between the two processors is in the clock speed. The 625 has a maximum clock speed of 2 GHz in comparison to the 450's 1.8 GHz. Both the processors have 8 Cortex A53 cores. Going by the pricing, the Moto G6 will lock horns with the Xiaomi's Redmi Note 5 Pro. Once again, Xiaomi appears to be superior on the specification sheet. The Redmi Note 5 Pro has more RAM, higher battery capacity, and a better processor in the form of Snapdragon 636. The 636 has performance-enhancing Cryo cores, which are found in Qualcomm's top-tier Snapdragon 800 series. So in terms of performance, the 636 is superior to the 450. And just as we saw in the comparison of the G6 Play and the Redmi Note 5, the G6 is splash resistant, has Dolby sound, and has Android Oreo, while the Note 5 Pro comes with Nougat out of the box. Now we have done 2 comparisons, and in both of them, Xiaomi clearly takes the edge by quite a margin. It's clear that Xiaomi's phones are much better on paper in terms of hardware specifications, and they also cost cheaper. So naturally enough, that raises the question, why is Motorola charging more for its smartphones? The basic answer to that is brand value. Well, see, brand value is a concept about how well a user or a consumer can trust a brand, how much faith can a consumer place in a brand. And the fact is that Motorola has been around for a longer time than Xiaomi, and also it spends a lot more on marketing and advertisement of its products. So because of those two things, it has a higher brand value than Xiaomi, and that's what Motorola is charging the consumers for, the higher brand value. Let's talk about ads. So Motorola is yet to release the G6 and the E5 series in India, but when that happens, and I can assure you this, the very next day leading newspapers will carry front page advertisements of the new smartphones, and there will be television commercials everywhere. Talking about TV ads, the first Xiaomi TV commercial that aired in India was just a couple of months back. So it's evident that Xiaomi doesn't spend much in advertising and marketing its products, and Motorola spends a heck lot. And because of the added costs of advertisement and marketing, Motorola's phones are much costlier than Xiaomi's. And advertisement and marketing, it's only one of the few reasons why Xiaomi's products are much cheaper than Motorola's. So I was thinking of doing a separate video on why Xiaomi's phones are so cheap and how Xiaomi entered India. And recently, Xiaomi became the second leading smartphone brand in the country. So I was thinking of doing a video on how all that happened and cover up that part of the history. So I will soon be having a video out on that. To get alerted about that video, make sure you are subscribed to the channel and you have the notification bell turned on, so that whenever that video goes live, you get a notification either from the YouTube app or you get an email. Moving on, we now have the Moto G6 Plus, which is the top model of the G series. The Indian price of the base model of the G6 Plus translates to about Rs 24,000, which is 7,000 rupees costlier than the Note 5 Pro's best variant with 6GB RAM. And the base model of the G6 Plus has 4GB of RAM and 64GB internal storage. It's worth noting here that we have the European pricing of the G6 Plus, and going by the past, there has always been a difference of about Rs 5,000 in the European prices and the price at which the phone is sold in India. As I have mentioned, the G6 series is yet to be announced in India, so we don't have the exact prices yet, but taking the rupees equivalent of the European pricing and subtracting 5,000 from it, get about Rs 19,000, which should be the price at which the G6 Plus should be sold in India. Another thing worth pointing out here is that we have used the US dollar pricing for the G6 and the G6 Play, and the North American pricing and Indian pricing almost match every time. The phone from Xiaomi that gets closest to the G6 Plus in pricing is the Mi Note 3. The Mi Note 3 was announced by Xiaomi in September 2017. The phone costs Rs 20,000, but it is yet to be launched in India. So for this comparison, we will be pitting the G6 Plus against the Mi Note 3 and the 6GB RAM variant of the Redmi Note 5 Pro. Both the Note 5 Pro and G6 Plus have 18:9 displays with Full HD Plus resolution, while the Mi Note 3 has an aspect ratio of 16:9 with Full HD resolution. The G6 Plus is 14 grams lighter than the 5 Pro, but 4 grams heavier than the Mi Note 3. The 5 Pro is the heaviest of the lot because of its beefy 4000 mAh battery. In terms of performance, all the phones have variants with 6GB of RAM, but the Snapdragon 660 in the Mi Note 3 is better on paper, followed by the Snapdragon 636 in the Redmi Note 5 Pro and the Snapdragon 630 in the Moto G6 Plus. Similarly, the Adreno 512 GPU in the Mi Note 3 is better than the Note 5 Pro's Adreno 509 and the Moto G6 Plus Adreno 508. As for the camera, it is tough to tell who does better, since image processing is an integral part of camera performance, and just by looking at the hardware specifications, we can't tell which phone is better in terms of image processing. However, out of the three phones, the Mi Note 3 has the largest 2 micrometer sensor in the front camera. The larger the sensor, the more light it can let in. A large sensor is particularly useful in low light conditions, but this can be a con in bright environments, since a lot of light can lead to overexposed images. And this is where image processing steps in to ensure that the image looks balanced and it is neither underexposed or overexposed. The Mi Note 3 also features optical image stabilization for its rear cameras, and the Note 5 Pro has electronic image stabilization, but the G6 Plus doesn't have either of them. In layman terms, electronic and optical image stabilization are techniques used to compensate for shaky hands while taking photos and videos. Consider yourself as a passenger on a motorcycle who is recording a video. As you can see on the left half, without OIS and EIS, the video footage is shaky, but with image stabilization enabled, the video footage is smooth and without any stutters. The difference between OIS and EIS is that OIS is a hardware solution while EIS is a software solution. Going back to the comparison, the points which go in favor of the G6 Plus are its water repellent coating, which can't be found in either of the Note 5 Pro or the Mi Note 3, and the G6 Plus also has support for Dolby Sound and stock Android. Coming to the Moto E5 smartphones, we have three variants just like the Moto G series. The Moto E5 Play is the least spec'd device, meaning it's the least powerful and the cheapest of the lot. The Moto E5 is superior to the Play but inferior to the E5 Plus. The takeaways from the specs of the E5 and E5 Plus are their whopping battery capacities. In fact, the Moto E series is known for its extraordinary battery capacities. The E5 has a whopping 4000 mAh battery and the E5 Plus has an even bigger battery at 5000 mAh. Also, E5 Plus has a 16:9 display while its siblings have 18:9 panels. The one thing that I wanted to talk about in regards to the E and G series is software updates. So all the smartphones that we talked about, they come with the Android Oreo out of the box, and with the Oreo, Google introduced something known as Project Treble. Treble is the collective name which is given to the framework level changes which were introduced to Android with Oreo. These changes make it much easier for device manufacturers to update their devices to newer versions of Android after Oreo. Let me just elaborate on this a bit. Say if a device came with Oreo, if a device came with Nougat out of the box and a device manufacturer wants to update it to Oreo, consider that the manufacturer takes about 100 hours to make that Nougat to Oreo update for a device. But now, thanks to Project Treble, that 100 hours workload can be reduced to about 50 hours. In about 50 hours, the manufacturer can design that update from Android Oreo to Android P. Again, just don't go by that proportions which I am saying that the workload will be halved. I'm not really sure about the proportions, but what I'm trying to convey to you is that thanks to Project Treble, it is now much easier for the device manufacturers to update their devices. They can now update their devices much faster and without allocating much of their research and development to it. So I was hoping that since there is support for Project Treble, Motorola will improve its update tactics in comparison to last year, and it will update the new Moto E and G series devices for longer periods of time. Previously, the Moto E series smartphones were not even assured of one major Android upgrade, and the Moto G series smartphones were assured of only one major Android upgrade. I don't know why, but Motorola still hasn't changed, and it is still saying that the Moto G6 smartphones will be getting one major Android upgrade, that is an upgrade to Android P. And according to reports, Moto E smartphones won't be even getting the update to Android P, and they will only be getting security patches once in every 3 or 4 months. And similarly, the security patch timeline is same for the Moto G smartphones too. That is one security patch in each quarter of the year. I really hoped that Motorola would have improved, but it hasn't. Anyway, for those of you who are interested in comparison of the Moto E smartphones versus the Xiaomi smartphones, I have made a comparison table between each of the Moto E smartphones versus either the Redmi Note 5 or the Redmi 5A or the Redmi 5. Now, Motorola has currently only given out the European prices of the Moto E devices, and as I mentioned before, there is a difference of about 5,000 rupees between the European prices and the Indian prices. So keeping that in mind, and keeping in mind the prices of the Redmi Note 5, the Redmi 5 and the Redmi 5A, I have compiled the comparison tables. So if you want to take a look at them, please pause the video and take a look at the comparison tables that follow. Also guys, please keep it in mind that we are only comparing the hardware specifications of these smartphones. software plays a pivotal role, because if hardware is one side of the coin, then software is the other side. So software plays just as crucial role as hardware does, and we aren't really sure how well the software on any of these smartphones is optimized. So if you are even thinking of buying any of these smartphones, then I would recommend doing a search on Google or doing a search on YouTube for full reviews of these smartphones, and then only making a decision on which smartphone you should buy. As for the availability, all the new Moto E and G series smartphones are already available in Brazil and Mexico. The Moto E5 Play will only be sold in North America, but North America won't be getting the Moto G6 Plus and the standard Moto E5. In North America, the Moto E5 Play and the Moto E5 Plus will be sold alongside the Moto G6 Play and the standard Moto G6. And as for other countries, all the other Moto G and E smartphones, barring the Moto E5 Play, will be available in the coming months. And for India, I think that we will be having the Moto E5 and the Moto E5 Plus, because we already have the Moto E4 and E4 Plus from last year. And as for the G series, Motorola has said that it won't be selling the G6 Plus in those countries where the Moto X4 is already available, and we have the X4 here in India. But given that the G series, the G Plus smartphones are such a big success in India, I think that Motorola will make an exception for India, and it will be selling the G6 Plus here. So I think we will be having the Moto E5, the E5 Plus, and the G6 and the G6 Plus. I don't think that the G6 Play would be coming to India. With that, we have come to an end of this video. So if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you didn't, you can vote it down. But yeah, that's it. So thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day, take care, and we will catch you guys in the next one.